You can be whatever you want, but most cannot consciously manifest themselves into their true selves right here, due to 3 of the lowest vibrating 3-dimensional emotions: fear, shame, and/or guilt. It is precisely these 3 that are important blockages that need to be overcome. These blockages are directly located in the first 3 chakras, and thus hinder the flow to the 4th chakra, the heart. This also blocks the other higher chakras, which denies you access to your true self, just like to your higher self. You'll notice it has its reasons why you open it from 1 to 7. Each chakra has its own purpose and justification. And here is a misconception that we have been taught wrong over and over again, that when we create or do something in this world, it always requires the acknowledgement of others to have a reason for being. Who would want it? Would people use it? How would I reach these people? Do you want to hear it, make it, feel it, do it, live it, try it, sing it, feel it, try it, dance it, renew it, expand it, improve it, fail it, try it again, and be successful in the end? Then that is enough reason for its existence in this world, that you can manifest yourself the way you want. That is enough reason for you to just be. As long as you always consider the free will of everyone, you are true to yourself. In the environment, in harmony, on one wavelength. What I want to tell you, whatever you do it for yourself first and foremost. And there will be people who are interested in you and who you are. And even if you didn't, you could manifest yourself bit by bit in this world to find your true self with a little bit of mindfulness and determination. So after the conscious overcoming of these 3 chakras, your I am begins. And your true self slowly comes to itself. Then finally begin to manifest yourself in this world itself. I am a conscious spiritual being who is allowed to experience his earthly human experiences in our physical and non-physical world. It's time, my sisters and brothers, to leave your broad paths and walk the narrow path of consciousness and manifest yourself. For the gate is wide, and the way is wide that leads to damnation, and many sins enter upon it. How narrow is the gate, and how narrow the path that leads to life, and few sins find it. For we don't have much time left. We are in the midst of the apocalypse, in the battle of good versus evil, Jesus versus devil, or true self versus ego. And now, listen carefully. Apocalypse does not mean the end of all days or the punishment of God's judgment or God's punishment. Apocalypse means revelation, or as it is called in English, revelation. What do you think is happening in this world right now? At the moment, the revelations and unveilings are coming thick and fast. But here we can perfectly respond to the collective consciousness and the collective ego. As for collective consciousness, something similar can be observed in the animal world. Why do birds fly so perfectly in their formations? How do ants manage to be so productive in all the chaos? Why are jellyfish pack animals? Because they all possess the same thing. A grouped consciousness, a sort of group instinct for their own species tribe. This grouped consciousness arises through participation in life, protection from enemies, social behavior, and the feeling of being one within the species tribe. And this is where the problem lies. In the last few centuries, only the development of our individual consciousness has been fostered, whereby our collective consciousness has suffered greatly, if not atrophied. But how could such a thing happen to our collective consciousness? Naturally, thanks to the collective ego. The collective ego is the ego of society. Or rather, all the ego-based norms and rules that the ego society must adhere to. This collective ego consists of several egos that then combine in a society to become a larger ego, which increases the value of all lower-ranked egos. And that can only be moved by a critical mass. But forming this critical mass is extremely difficult. At the moment, it is not even possible to align 1% of humanity on one issue. Because as long as the collective ego has its fingers in the pie, it will try by all means to prevent this critical mass from ever forming. Because of this separation, the collective ego has no major problems retaining the upper hand over the collective consciousness, because we can't even overcome the 1% hurdle. But why would evil take such a complicated detour and try to push the masses in certain directions? Why not have a direct impact on every single person and thus achieve the greatest possible effect? We spoke about karma earlier. Should these evil influences in the world interfere directly with a person's free will, this would be the greatest possible violation of universal laws. For free will reigns supreme. But by disclosing your plan and acting without interfering with free will, you are circumventing karma, so to speak. Let me give you an example. Someone sets up a stall and sells poisoned apples. If this person didn't indicate it, for example, by putting a sign on the stand, a sticker on the apple, or a verbal hint before buying, he'd be completely burdened with negative karma. He'd have deceived this man maliciously for his own benefit. But if this person didn't indicate it, he wouldn't deal with the negative karma. The seller warns you beforehand that this apple is poisoned and you still buy and eat it. And so, the seller is not to blame. You knew what he was getting you into. It was your free will. No one forced you to go to this stand, take the apple, pay for it, and in the end, eat it whole. Now multiply this negatively created karma from this one person with the karma of all of humanity. This would be a truly enormous accumulation of negative karma, and these evil influences would get their comeuppance sooner than they'd like. So one avoids the individual's karma and tries to steer people with the critical mass. But if enough people voluntarily come together and thus form the critical mass, which is between 7 to 10%, it is possible to simply bring the whole collective along. Because if the remaining 90 to 93% don't do anything about it, it's tantamount to not rejecting it, like tacitly accepting it. Or to put it another way, at least it wouldn't violate your free will. Because you're not for it, but you're not against it either. You just don't care. Ergo, no violation of your free will. Well, until now. Because now you know. They prepare everything, then only show you options that are in their interests. Now they let the different masses have a choice, thereby forming different groupings. And the group that reaches the critical mass first has won, and is then allowed to lead the interests of the collective ego. An old hat, the trick is well known and tiring. One has to wonder, is there also a world ego? Could it be the beast from the Bible? A being who is trying to seize control over all of us in the end times? A global ego that will soon try to seduce all of us in the end times? This ego will not be bound by any rules, as humans currently do, because the beast is granted great power by the dragon. But let's get back to the point. Let me provide an example of the collective ego. You're at your job, and there you have 6 employees. These employees have to communicate and interact. During this process, the collective ego is formed. Prejudices, experiences, patterns, and evaluations are compared, and then a solution is found where everyone is equally unsatisfied. That's the collective ego. However, there's usually a beneficiary of it, as mentioned, the one with the largest ego. In most cases, this person tends to be the boss. Now we could apply one of our 3 newly learned methods. Leave, endure, let go. For instance, if you feel strongly suppressed at work or even bullied, enduring will be a very challenging test. In these situations, I would recommend leaving immediately. The ego of these people is so big, you couldn't stand up to them when you're just starting the learning phase. The vibrations of collective ego are very strong, and it will always try to push you in an unconscious direction. This could be a direction that would lead you away from your true self. Moreover, they often show up in a pack. Suddenly, it turns into a battle of one against many. It's a battle you don't want. You're worth more than this, believe me. Now let's take a look at how we behave during endurance. It's easy to gauge how far the collective ego has advanced in each individual. If you identify these other 5 employees in collective evil, and they act condescending, cruel, spiteful, or similar, evaluate these individuals one-on-one. And suddenly, when you speak individually with these people, without the collective ego's influences, a whole different dynamic arises, and you see that they are just humans with their own weaknesses and flaws. Once you've seen that these people can be different and kind too, these oh so nice people suddenly rejoin other employees anyway. They unconsciously go along with the ego games as if nothing happened. Then you understand these people just want to subconsciously comply with the norms and rules of the collective ego. These are people with a weak character, and these people haven't yet consciously found themselves and instantly submit unconsciously to the next best authority to avoid consciously bearing responsibility for their own lives and actions. If these people don't see this as a mistake or even believe their behavior is right, following the sentiment, the strongest survive, and if not the strongest, then at least the smartest, then you do not have the right to do so. To interfere with his free will. He is allowed to live his life the way he wants to, just like you. Because free will reigns supreme. Because he also has the option of looking at it that way. Together we all survive. But it's not an option for him. But in such an environment, I wonder, why would I want to endure it all, let alone stay in the end? I know such individuals with weak character who project their fears and problems onto others. Well, but to each his own. So if you still want to stay, then by enduring I mean the attempt not to lose your inner balance due to external influences, so that nothing can falter. So I don't mean your persistence or your steadfastness. How long can you endure pain and suffering but the will and awareness to perceive something in you that you might not like, to take responsibility for it, for what you have discovered within yourself? Old subconscious evaluated experiences. Especially at the start of the learning phase, this unconscious energy-draining whirlpool can easily carry you away and throw you off balance. And this uses up a lot of energy. This can also be likened to a tightrope walk, where you represent an unconscious vibration on the rope. The stronger the vibration, the stronger the subconscious swaying, and the energy that needs to be gathered to slowly consciously balance it back down. When you finally feel the vibration, begin to identify. Is it a racing heart, kidney pain, lump in the throat, pressure in the head, or whatever physical sensation? Or an emotional vibration of anger, hatred, greed, envy, or whatever emotions you may experience? Don't let the vibration unconsciously sweep you away, because you are not the anger, nor the hatred, nor the rage. You are you. Observe it very closely with your consciousness. Where does it come from, and what is your true self trying to tell you? At first, it is hard to overpower the loud, penetrating voice of the ego. But as time goes on, it gets easier and easier. You will see it too. Until you have lost so much of your old baggage that you could just let go of it. And the voice of the ego is silent. This is a hard process, however, that must be gone through with much willpower and awareness. Which brings us to the last of the 3 methods. Let's say that it is your dream job. You have worked at it for a long time, and you have done everything that you can to get it. And these 5 employees can no longer see you on your tightrope. If you can manage to be so detached that your calling which you have chosen fulfills you so emotionally and spiritually that through it you can find your true self and manifest yourself in this